Higher order functions are easy. It's just that the name is a little bit heavy. Once you understand how function works, you actually understand how higher order function works. Hello friends, let's talk about higher order functions today. So this is another fundamental concept, just like the pure function one we have seen a couple of weeks back. So today we are going to get a deep dive on higher order function and try to understand what it is, how we can use it, specifically from the JavaScript point of context, because that's the programming language I'm more aware of. But this is a concept that is kind of well known and well established in the functional programming and used across multiple languages, right? So before we get started, as usual, please subscribe to this channel, and if you like the videos, please like them, comment on them. If you have further questions, let's connect on Twitter. You can actually DM me, or you can ask questions in the comment section itself. I'll get back with answers, right? So thank you very much for being a subscriber to this channel. And if you just got started with my channel, yeah, this is the place where you will get a lot more content about fundamentals on web programming, JavaScript, building projects, and things like that. All right. So without any further delay, let us dive in. In JavaScript, functions are first-class citizens. It means you can do possibly everything using functions. Okay. So how do you create a function in JavaScript? Is you start with the keyword function and then give the function name, and then you pass some optional parameters, and then you do something over there, some task, and then possibly return some value. So in this case, we'll return say a plus b. That's the return value, right? And how you invoke the function, you basically call this function with the value. That's why to return 5. So this is a very useful way and quick way to create a function. But it is not limited to this. What you can do, just like this, you created a function, you can actually assign a function to a variable. Let's do that. So let's create a variable called sum, and then what we can do is like we can create the similar function called function a comma b, and then you return a plus b, right? So what you're doing here, you're actually assigning a function to this particular variable, and what you can do, when you call, you just call this as usual 2 comma 3, it is going to return 5 for you. It's some, right? Then another usage of function is like just like any other values, like it could be a primitive value, like a string number, or it could be an object instance, it could be an array. You can also pass function as a parameter to another function. That's a great use case, and our today's sessions is based on that use case. We'll see it in a minute. So how do we do that? For example, let's say that we have a function called get camera, right? And it probably say return um, it returns some camera name, say Canon, right? And then what you can do, you might have another function called function, say called get capture, right? And in this get capture function, you can pass, you can expect this, say camera as a argument, and you do something with this camera like this, say camera, you're calling this over here, and when you call this function, you call it like get capture, and then you actually pass this get camera function over here, right? So you pass this get camera function, right? So what we are doing here is like in this get capture, you're passing this get camera function. Either you can actually create it as a named function, it means it has a name, and through that name you're passing it, or in most of the cases you will see like if that function is not going to use anywhere else, you directly kind of can also create the function and pass it over here, right? So you can do like in this case return canon directly over here. So that's kind of same, and then this particular function is to get passed over here, and what you do here with this parenthesis, you execute this function. So here we are able to pass a function to another function, and the last usage of a function is like you can return a function from another function, right? So let's see that. So we'll do a function, let's name it as return func, and in the return func, what are we going to do? We are going to return a function called return function, a simple function will return, so that you understand the concept. Say console dot log of high, right? So this is a function from where I'm returning a function. And how do I actually execute this inner function over here? How do I execute the return function? So if I just call this return func, what exactly it is going to return me? It is going to return me this function. It is just going to return me this function, but it is not going to execute it. To execute this one, I have to give another parenthesis. You remember, for executing a function, for invoking a function, you have to give the parenthesis after the function name. So this is how you can actually execute a function which is returning from another function. So what we have learned right now is like, a function can be used in multiple cases, in the multiple purposes in JavaScript programming languages. That's why a function is called a first-class citizen. Now, this knowledge we are going to utilize to understand what is a higher order function is and what are the different usages of a higher order function. In functional programming, a higher order function is a regular function which takes another function as an argument or return a function from it. We have seen both the examples just now. The getCapture function takes an argument which is a function. The return function return a value which is a function. So both these functions are higher order function. A higher order function can do both, like taking a function as an argument as well returning a function from it, or can do either of this. It is not necessarily that it has to do both, right? So as we understand the definition of higher order function, let us see some of the usages of it and how it is going to make your programming much simpler. Let's take an example of a very simple function which takes an array of say numbers and then take one constant number and then add this constant number to each of the element of an array and then return back the array. So basically it's increment the element of an array by a number. That's what it does. And as you've seeing it, like, it takes an array as an argument and a number as an argument. It is not taking a function as an argument. So of course this is not a higher order function. So if I have to kind of just run this one, this particular function executes. So let's take one array called constant say data equals to, let's take 12 5 50, and then if I'll execute this one, say incr and then array, let's copy this one, incr array, and then I'm going to pass the data as an argument, and that's an increment each of the element by 3, right? And whatever the return value, I can actually take it in say const result equals to this, and then I can say console.log of result. So what do you think the result will be? Of course, the result will be incremented by 3. So there will be an array return which will be like 15, 8, and 53. So let's see that. So we see the result as 15, 8, and 53. Now, once you have written this function and executed, let's say that the next requirement that comes to you to write a function which will decrement or do a subtraction of each of the element by a number. Here you have done increment, and how to do next is like you can actually do a decrement. How are you going to kind of do this one? Of course, one way you can do is like you can take another argument and say, okay, what kind of operation it is, and then over here you can come and do a if else. That like if it is a operation is addition, then it will be element plus n. If the order is subtraction, then it will be element minus n, like that, so on. Or another way probably you can do it like maybe some of your friend who is doing this one, they probably create another function with say a little bit of change, like decrement this guy, and instead of element plus it will be element minus. So it means that next time when I, instead of increment, I call decrement arr and pass this one and pass the number, what it is going to do, it is going to reduce this number from each of the element of an array, and then it is going to return array. Now let's say our requirement is not ending here. I am getting the next requirement of multiplying it. Like I'm taking an array of number and then a constant number and want to multiply each of the element of that particular array with a constant number. Similarly, how we have done the plus minus, now I have to do minus again. So what you have to do? So if you had a same function, then again you have to come and modify this function, and you have to do an if and else again, like if operation is this, do this. If operation is subtraction, do this. Operation multiplication, do this. So the more and more I'm going to give you the requirement, the more and more changes that you're going to bring in over there in this particular function. Now this is not that healthy, right? Now how can you achieve this one a little bit better way? I think there are two things that we're sacrificing over here. The first thing is, like, things are not so reusable. Like, we are not able to reuse things too much, so that you have written it once and most of the time it will just automatically works out, right? We are not actually changing this logic too much, or we are not repeating the code. Here we are repeating the code, and increment and decrement array doesn't have much changes apart from this plus and minus. And if we are writing one function with the if and else, in that case also, if there is a new requirement comes, that if and else is just going to grow, that branching is going to grow, which is also not healthy. So how are you going to tackle this? So we are going to tackle this using the concept of higher order function, right? So we'll see like this way. Now our operations like incrementing, decrementing, multiplication, let us create pure functions. Pure functions means a function which produce the same output for the same input. It means the function has the responsibility of doing only one work at a time. I have created a full-fledged pure function video a couple of weeks back. Please refer to that if you're new to that concept. Now we'll be creating the functions for those purposes. So let's create the functions for those purposes. For example, for increment, let us create a function called incr. What incr is going to take, it is just going to take a number, and then it will take what is the number it wants to increment with, and it is just going to return a number plus that incrementer, right? So if I'm passing 3 and I want to increment by 2, I'll be passing 2 here, so it's going to return a 5. It's just more like a summation kind of stuff. Now similarly, there are other two functions that we can write. Instead of writing them this kind of easy trivial functions, let me just paste them here. So it is like you do a decrement, number minus pad, and or you can do multiplication. So whatever the operations you need for each of these operations, you can keep writing all these pure functions and keep it ready. Now next comes our higher order function. So how do we write the higher order function in this case? So what we'll be doing, you remember the higher order function concept, a function which takes another function as an argument or return a function from it. So in this higher order function example, what we are going to see a function that takes another function as argument. That means a function that will take each of these pure functions as an argument and able to perform the same operation that we have seen before, but it is much more manageable way. How? Let's see that. First let's write this function. Function, we'll name it as, say, smart operation, because we're doing something smart maybe here. And then what it takes the data, the usual one. The data is basically nothing but our array, because it's going to perform the operation on the array. And then we will pass the operation. Operation is nothing but the increment, decrement, multiplication, and future there could be any other operation also. And this OP operation, or whatever name you want to give, this is the function itself. This is not a string to determine whether it's a addition, or it is a subtraction, or it is a increment, decrement, multiplication. It's not a string indicator. This is the function itself. So as you guess, we are passing a function to a function. It means we are actually writing a higher order function. All right. And then we will give the number with what we want to increment it, like padding. And then what we'll be doing is, let take the resultant array which we want to return, and then what we'll do is, like, we'll write a for loop, like const element of our data array. So we are using for of loops. It's easy to kind of collect the stuff. And then what we'll be doing, okay, let's do this thing step by step. So whatever element we are getting, if you're seeing that our operations, it's required the element, each of the element, plus the increment or decrement or whatever it is. The signature is same, like for multiplication, increment and decrement, all are same. It takes these two basically arguments. So it means I can actually do like this function, which can be an increment or decrement function, which I am passing through, this particular function, and then each of the element that I am iterating through, and then the padding. So it means if I am passing increment, I am calling actually increment function over here. If I am passing say decrement through this, I am calling the decrement function here. If I am passing multiplication, I am calling multiplication function here. So you see that I am now actually creating a function which is a kind of standing somewhere one level above than all this function that I am kind of passing. So whatever the output of this function, that I am going to push into this resultant array, right? So that my resultant array I can actually return, right? So look at this function. This is how much simplified. I have written a function which takes the actual array and then it takes the operation, basically the function itself that I want to perform, the operation I want to perform that on the data, and it takes that particular padding, basically how much you want to increment, how much you want to decrement. Then I'm looping through each of the element of the array. I am performing the operation itself. If I am passing incremental function, incremental happening here. If I am pressing decrement, decrement happening here. Multiplication is multiplication happening here. Tomorrow, you have to do the division. Yes, you just pass the division. That's all. You create a pure function for division, which does the division and pass that function. That's all. So how do we call this function? We have the smart function now written. So simple. We'll do a const say result equals to smart function. Smart operation, and let us first pass the data, and then what we'll be doing, we'll be first pass the maybe the incremental operation incr, and maybe you want to increment by say 4. That's all it is, right? So as simple as that. If you want to decrement, just pass decr. If you want to multiplication, just pass mul. If you have a division, you just create a say division function div equals functions div and pass a x comma y, return x divided by y, and now we want to make this one as a kind of division function. You just do this, pass this div over here. So that's as simple as this. The things are now for you to kind of operate. And this particular function that we have right now, it is so flexible that it can be reused across multiple such similar kind of operations. There is another advantage of this is like it is composable. That means you have increment, decrement, multiplication, all these functions. You are actually composing into another higher level function, smart operation. Tomorrow you can actually take this smart operation and can pass this to another function, right, as an argument, and compose it within that, right? So you can keep composing things, one by one, one by one, one by one. So that's the beauty of functional programming. That's the beauty of higher order function, and that's the beauty of writing code in this way. So you can actually reduce a lot of if else gotcha inside your function. You can reduce a lot of duplicate code with higher order function. You can reuse code with higher order function, and you can actually achieve composability with higher order function. So I hope that you understood the concept of higher order function with this example. And why don't we just print this and see what is the output? That will be a really cool thing to do. So we'll do res, and then we'll save this guy. Of course, we see things have got incremented by 4, right? Previously we have incremented by 3. Now we have incremented the hours, by 4. So if instead of incr, so if I put decrement over here and just do, I'll see the output again. As I see, it is decremented. It was 12, 4 decremented 8, right? So similarly, it was 50, 4 decremented 46, right? So that's the good part of it. So I hope you kind of liked it. Now, can you guess in our programming, JavaScript programming, are there anywhere you're already using these higher order functions? Yes, you are using. If you have ever used the array methods like map, filter, or whatever it is, those find. Have you noticed the thing, right? Something like this. So let's take data is an array, right, for us. So if I just do say data.filter, I want to filter out an element from this array based on a condition. the condition that you pass, you always pass a function, right? So this condition, always you pass a function. You pass an element and then you pass an index, if you remember, and then what you do here, you write like, your conditions for filtering. So you return that, return say if element equal, maybe greater than 10. So it means it will filter out all the elements from this data array that are greater than 10 and return you a new array with all this resultant element, right? So this filter, this array method filter or array method map are higher order functions because it accepts another function in it. That's why it is a higher order function, right? So you have to remember that you are already using higher order function possibly in JavaScript, maybe without knowing that it is a higher order function. And now you know, like you can actually make your code much simpler by writing higher order functions by yourself. Okay. Now one questions that we always get is higher order function same as callback function? No, it is not. Higher order functions are not same as callback functions. What callback are? Callback functions are the function that we pass as an argument to another function. So it means this particular function that we have passed here or this particular function that we have passed here is the callback function, because once we pass this one, we have an expectation that wherever the function we are passing this, in this function, this callback function will be called somewhere, which we are seeing here. So in the smart operation, when we are passing this DEC, a decrement function, as a second argument, over here, this OP, this is actually getting called here. So it means OP is a callback function we are passing into a higher order function. So callback function and higher order functions are related, but they are not same. Callback function we pass as an argument to an higher order function. It's a very, very frequently asked interview question. So I hope it is clear as well. All right. So we are doing good. We have learned a lot of stuff, and I'm happy to articulate this particular topic to you. We have just done it. So request to you to please subscribe if you have not subscribed to it, because we are going to discuss, talk and learn a lot of stuff on the JavaScript, web development, project building, Next.js, React.js kind of stuff. So yeah, please subscribe to this channel. So this is almost end of 2021, and we'll see you very soon in 2022. I want to wish you guys a very, very happy New Year and Merry Christmas, people who are celebrating across the globe. So stay well, stay healthy, take care of yourself, and see you soon with another video from my side. Thank you very much.